BRF is a Brazilian food company, nowadays the largest exporter of poultry protein in the world. We produce up to 7 million chicken per day. And in BRF we have a business unit called BRF Ingredients that has the focus to add value and sustainably use 100% of the animal raw material we produce. In BRF Ingredients, the focus of my job is to develop innovative and performance ingredients for animal nutrition. My profession is in the area of environmental engineering and also biotechnology and bioprocess engineering. This is Professor Wilson. Wilson is one of the biggest names in Brazil when we talk about tilapia formulators. He is a specialist in this area, and he has several lines of research on the subject that we will address here. I will let him introduce himself.
Good afternoon. My name is Wilson Rogério Bosco. I am professor at University Public University in Brazil, and I am a BRF consultant for fish nutrition. I work mainly with tilapia nutrition, and I would like to thank BRF by the invitation.
So the title of our presentation is Bioactive Peptides and Hydrolysate Proteins in Animal Nutrition. And we are here together because we want to pass a clear concept of the relation between how ingredients are processed, characteristics of enzymatic hydrolysis, and how it impacts animal performance. Our time will be divided in three main parts. First, we will make a small introduction with the main numbers of the fish market. Our focus will be aquaculture. Also, we will talk a little bit about the main challenges and the types of processes, ingredients that we have available. Then we will talk a little bit about the state of art, what we already know about bioactive peptides and hydrolysate proteins. And at the last part, we will present 3 new ingredients that have been developed to attend this market demand and to bring more efficiency to formulations. So we start our presentation with a very positive expectation for the fish market, since the global fish supply is projected to rise to 201 million tons per year in 2030. And when we talk only about the volume share of aquaculture in comparison to capture production, we left 2016 with a volume share of 46%, representing 80 million tons per year, and the expectation is that aquaculture will represent 54% of the volume share, with a production of 109 million tons per year. Those are famous graphs if we're talking about aquaculture, and both of them are saying the same thing. We still need to reduce the fish meal dependency in our formulations. We already did a lot of effort in this direction, but there is still a lot we can do. So the first graph is showing the fast growth of aquaculture in blue in comparison to capture production in orange, and it means more need for complete feed. And if the fish meal is still one of the main protein sources, we can say that the demand for fish meal is also growing with aquaculture, and the supply is not keeping up. So we have to keep developing alternatives. And it will lead naturally to price increase. That is what will show in the second graph. So we left 1983 with a medium value of $400 per ton. And in recent years, the fish meal price achieves $1,800 per ton, without counting the high volatility of prices. Besides the high volatility of prices and increasing of prices, we have that the high quality fish meal is each time lower. So, what is considered a high-quality fish meal? It's, among other parameters, the fish meal made with the whole fish, with less ash content. So the capture that provides the good quality fish meal will have each time more limited capacity to attend aquaculture demands. In addition to that, we have that the use of this raw material is not well seen in the market because it's not a sustainable source. Besides the increasing demand for sustainable ingredients, what does the change from capture to aquaculture represent? So in capture we have very low densities, so high availability of natural feeding. And when we change to aquaculture, we have each time more density and more need to provide all the nutrients required in a complete and balanced feed. And we have that the quality of the ingredients that compose this feed and how they are produced will have a direct impact in animal performance. To explain a little bit about the types of ingredient processing, we will talk about the three most common ones. So first we have the thermal process or cooking process that happens when the raw material is subjected to high temperatures and high pressures in a digester, that is like a big cooking pan. And this is considered a very simple and low-cost alternative, but it's also very aggressive to proteins. And the second one that we will talk about is the chemical hydrolysis that happens when the raw material is subjected to severe changes in pH. And it can be acid or alkaline. The acid one, for example, is often used for flavor enhancers. But its negative point is that it will lead to partial destruction of some amino acids. And when we talk about the alkaline hydrolysis, the impact on amino acids is even greater. In addition to that, the final ash content of the product will be very high because we are adding inorganic compounds. The last one that we will present is the enzymatic hydrolysis process that happens in low temperatures, low pressure, so very soft conditions that will lead to total maintenance of the amino acids and the protein integrity. We also have that in this kind of process we use less energy and less steam. So it is considered a more sustainable type of processing compared to the cooking.
This study evaluated the ingredients of the three processes that I explained. Intact fish meal, the normal process, denatured fish meal, the chemical process, and the hydrolyzed fish meal, the enzymatic process. On the table is presented the larval performance of Phanulius ornatus, the lobster, in initial phase. And hydrolyzed protein is better than intact protein and the denatured fish meal. This picture shows that with hydrolyzed protein, we advanced 2 stages and they also obtain more homogeneous livestock. In the purple, animals fed with hydrolyzed protein were in the stage 7-2. And in red, animals fed with intact fish meal and denatured fish meal were the mostly in stage 6-2. Other advantage of hydrolyzed protein is the homogeneity of the livestock. 58% of the animals were fed with hydrolyzed fish meal were in stage 7. while below 10% of the animals fed with the natural fish meal were in the same stage, and only 1.2% of the animals fed with the intact fish meal were in this stage. Hydrolyzed fish meal is better than intact fish meal and the natural fish meal because it is high quantity of the peptides.
So since the protein quality is essential for animal performance, as Wilson just showed, we start thinking how to produce a more functional and digestible ingredient. And one way to do that is through enzymatic hydrolysis that we will explain more. To start with some definitions, we have that a protein is a macromolecule consisted of 20 different amino acids that are linked via peptide bonds. And the amino acid is the protein unit that has both an amine group and a carbon group. And the peptide bond will be the link between the nitrogen from the amine group with the carbon from the acid group. And we have that the sequence of amino acids in the protein is what defines its biological value. When we have a protein with low molecular weight, we call it a peptide. So some authors use the definition that peptides are proteins with less than 8,000 Daltons, but it's not an absolute definition. And we also have that the peptides may have antimicrobial, antioxidant, antihypertensive, and immunomodulatory activities. When this happens, they are called bioactive peptides, that by definition are specific sequences of amino acids with specific bioactivity in the animal's organs. Here in this figure, we have a representation of a protein with more than 20 amino acids. It's not as pretty as this figure, but it's just a representation. And then the peptide bonds are broken to create a mixture of free amino acids and small peptides. And one way to do that is through enzymatic hydrolysis.
First, the enzymes break the protein chain and the making small peptides. Small peptides are easily absorbed by animal. Is better absorbed than amino acids. And the protein chain is broken too by many enzymes, pepsine, trypsine, and other enzymes of the animal. And in the case of the industrial products, the hydrolyzed protein are pre-digested, and we are synergy entre the digestive of the animal and product digested by enzyme in industry. Studies indicates that the digestive capacity depends on two factors mainly: stage, life stage, and protein form. In this study, larvae is absorbed worse intact protein than juveniles, and for larvae in same stage with 25 days for first feed, hydrolyzed protein is better absorbed than intact protein. It is because the digestive system isn't well developed in initial phase in this species, Atlantic alligator, for example, and many other kinds of the fishes is virtual. Firstly, 10, 20 years ago, hydrolysis processes were made only to improve digestibility of ingredients, and today for others advantages too. Thais will explain this.
So besides the increasing in digestibility, the enzymatic hydrolysis generates bioactive peptides that we mentioned before. And this slide is showing that there is an intense experimental stage to define what is the best enzyme for each raw material and what are the process conditions necessary to achieve the desirable bioactivities and desirable final product profile. So the different enzymes we use will create different final products because it will generate different sequences of amino acids in the peptides and also different molecular mass bands. In literature, we have, in recent years, several authors, several studies that have related specific sequences with specific bioactivities. So, for example, this article of 2012, a Chinese paper from WHO, have related the dipeptide tryptophan threonine with immunomodulatory activity. And all those studies, all those peptides are available in huge databases, so we can consultate and relate with our products. We also have in literature the relation between specific molecular mass with specific bioactivities. For example, this article have related peptides with molecular mass between 1 and 2,000 Dalton with antioxidant and anti-inflammatory activities. So this opens a wide variety of applications and it can be much more explored to bring benefits for animal performance. Thinking about those results, BRF has designed a new plant and a new process to produce the first product that we will present. That is the chicken protein hydrolysate. So the chicken protein hydrolysate is the result of enzymatic hydrolysis of chicken offals, viscera, chicken giblets, and meat. So this is our raw material. And after hydrolysis, almost all the solids are removed through filtration, so the final ash content is really low, around 4%. And we also have a centrifugation step after that removes most part of the fat. So it gives us ability to oxidation and also concentration of the protein form. And it was mentioned that all the raw material we use is processed in maximum 2 hours after slaughter. So we achieve to provide maximum freshness to the product. The final profile of the product will have a very concentrated protein form. We guarantee minimum 75% and also minimum 90% of in vitro digestibility. We have talked a lot about the benefits of a low molecular weight peptides, and with the defined parameters of this process, we achieved to produce the chicken protein hydrolysate with maximum 3,000 Daltons. So almost all, 99% of its peptides are below 3,000 Daltons. That is considered the band with more bioactivity. After the definition of the molecular mass of our product, we start wondering, what are the sequences of amino acids of our product? And to understand more about that, we did a peptidomic analysis. That is basically knowing exactly what are the amino acids and in what sequences they are in our peptides. So we have analyzed 2 samples, one of a cooked poultry meal and the other one from an hydrolysate, the chicken protein hydrolysate. So in the first sample, in the cooked sample, we were not able to identify any peptides below 3,000 Daltons. And in the hydrolysate sample, we were able to identify minimum 78 different peptides in different intensities. So we have the same raw material processed in 2 different forms, creating 2 totally different products. And this type of analysis gave us a huge database to understand more about the possible applications of our product.
Now I speak about in vivo tests. For ingredients, for new ingredients evaluation, the first step is the digestibility. And for this study was made in University in Brazil with tilapia. And the coefficient of the apparent digestibility of CP8 for tilapia for dry matter, energy, and protein is above 93%. And this is very good. It's better than fish meal or feather meal or poultry byproduct, for example, for conventional method. For amino acids, this product has a good profile. And CP8 has 75% of crude protein and 73% of total amino acids. So this product is very low quantitative in nitrogen no protein. This product has 15% of free amino acids. This is natural amino acids, no synthetic. And this is important to palatability too. And the amino acid availability is about 96%. It's very good. Other advantage is the amino acid profile. This product has a good amino acid profile similar to tilapia requirement. After digestibility, we evaluated the attractivity, the palatability index. For this index, the parameters evaluated was pellet consumption, rejection rate, approximation rate, and first pellet capture time. And this product is 10.8% higher than fish meal in control group, with 5% inclusion in the diet. After palatability, we studied the larval, the initial phase of the Nile tilapia. And we made the diets. The control diet has 10% of fish meal, and the test diet has 2.5, 5, 7.5, and 10% of chicken protein hydrolyzed. Replace the fish meal in this case. And our diets was isonutrients, isoenergetic, isoproteic, and isoamino acidic. All other diets for Nile tilapia was isonutrients too, for fingerlings or adults. The performance in initial phase was very good. The CP8 inclusion of 2.5% increased 22% the final weight, 8.5% the final length, and increased survival too. To fingerlings, up to 4% inclusion of the CP8 increase 22.5% the final weight too. In the same tests for fingerlings, the feed conversion improved a lot with 2% inclusion of the CP8 in diets. In other research, we observed the good health promoter. CP8 3% of CP8 improve the number of villi. And the number of villi is important because increases the absorption area. And with 2 and 3% of CP8 decrease the muscular tunica thickness. The muscular tunica CP large is bad because can indicate inflammation or presence of antinutrients in the diet. We also observed liver health promoter because the hepatocytes nucleus with modified tube. With 3% of the inclusion of the CP8 and pork liver, peptides from two sources increase the nucleus perimeter, nucleus area, and the nuclear volume. And this indication higher metabolic activity, functional activity in the liver of fish, of tilapia. In adults, we have a good result too. In Brazil, the main product for local market is the fillet of tilapia. And with 2.7% inclusion, increases 6% in fillet for tilapia. With 1% increase, 4% in the fillet yield. This is a good inclusion for adults. Other functional activity observed is the antiadipogenic bioactive peptides have improved the plasma lipid profile. With the CP8 inclusion, we observed that decrease the triglycerides, decrease VLDL, the bad cholesterol, and increase HDL, the good cholesterol. So the results indicate that CP8 improves the energetic metabolism and the rational utilization of nutrients in protein deposition because increase the fillet yield. This test was conducted here in Asia, in Vietnam, and was evaluated the performance of the juveniles with control diet with 10% fish meal and without CPA, chicken protein hydrolysate. The negative control diet was without fish meal and without CPA. The treatment test was 5% fish meal plus 2% CPA, or 0% fish meal plus 4% CPA. And the better results was in positive control for performance, 5% fish meal plus 2% CPA, and without fish meal plus 4% CPA. So, with 2.5% fish meal can be replaced by 1% inclusion of the chicken protein hydrolyzed for tilapia juveniles.
The second product that we will present is the concentrated protein hydrolysate called Amino shrimp, that is specifically made for shrimp feed. So this liver hydrolysate in its composition. And the swine liver hydrolysate brings the benefit of synergistic effect of functionalities and bioactivities. So some recent researches already have proven the synergic effect when we use more than one source of hydrolysate. And the final profile of the product has also a very concentrated protein content, and also a very high digestibility, around 95%. In the in vivo trials with shrimps, this product achieved 93.88% of in vivo digestibility for protein and 94% for energy. And we also have that this product has a very balanced amino acid profile when we compare it to the shrimp meats. Talking about availability of amino acids, we also have here in the third column a very high coefficient for all the amino acids, all of them above 90%, with a median value of 94.33%. After that, we start with our growing experiments. And first we have compared with formulation, the control group formulated with only salmon meal as the main protein source. Salmon meal is considered to be a very high quality protein ingredient. And in the treatment, we replace 5% of salmon meal for 5% of amino shrimp. The results showed a 7.8% improvement in final weight and also 14.2% improvement in feed conversion rate. The last test, the last experiment we did with this product was a challenge with the Vibrio parahemolyticus bacteria that is considered to be one of the bacteria that causes the most harm in shrimp farms. So we evaluate the cumulative mortality after 48 hours of infection with this bacteria. We have that all the treatments that had some inclusion of amino shrimp had a decrease in the cumulative mortality between 20% and 50%. So you can see in the blue line that we have the control group with 25% of mortality, and the treatments with between 12 and 20% of cumulative mortality. And this is a very strong indicator of the presence of antimicrobial and also immunomodulatory bioactive peptides. The last product that we will present is the enzymatic feather hydrolysate. And before commenting more about this product, I would like to ask you all a reflection. What do you usually think about feather ingredients? What concepts do we have about feather meal, for example? So most of the times we think about feather ingredients as low protein, digestibility ingredients, also low availability of amino acids, loss of performance in the production if we include too much, increased FCR, low quality feed, and why do we use it? Because most of the times because it is a low cost alternative. And this happens mainly because the keratin, that is the main protein of feathers, has a very challenging structure and very difficult to hydrolysate without over-processing the raw material. But in the case of enzymatic feather hydrolysate, none of those features are suitable to the product. Because with the defined parameters, we were able to produce this product with 95% of in vitro digestibility. We also have maintained the high protein content of 80%. And why all those differences? So mainly because of the differences in processes. We already have talked a lot about this, but this is also the reason for these differences. In the conventional feather meal, we have are very aggressive parameters, and most of the times of long drying times. And when we talk about the enzymatic feather hydrolysate, we have soft conditions and a very fast drying time. We can see those differences in those graphs that are comparing the different molecular mass distribution of both products. So in the conventional feather mill, we have a molecular mass between 10,000 Daltons and 40,000 Daltons. And when we talk about the enzymatic feather hydrolysate, we have a molecular mass between 2,000 Daltons and 5,000 Daltons. Without counting the fact that the peptides, the protein of the conventional feather mill are most of the times over-processed. So when we talk about more simple analysis like the digestibility in 0.0% of pepsin, we left the conventional feather mill with 20% digestibility for 95% digestibility in the enzymatic feather hydrolysate.
Here are the results of the other ingredients evaluated in vivo in Brazil. The coefficient of the apparent digestibility for tilapia for green matter was 8.3%, for protein 8.9%, and for energy 8.7%. The results are very good, with almost 90% digestibility for protein, and energy is better than feather mill by conventional process, for example. The digestibility of the amino acids are higher too, above 86% for leucine, and in average 94%. This value is higher than common feather mill processor by pressure and heat. We are currently evaluating fish performance in Brazil with the inclusion of this ingredient, and it has great potential for animal nutrition, considering nutrients, digestibility, and health, the influence of this feed in the health of the fish, because it has a high quantity of peptides bioactives too.
For final considerations, first we have that sustainability have to be the biggest driver in feed innovation, and we have to consider it in all stages. Designing processes that use less energy and less steam. We have to consider it choosing for sustainable protein ingredients and reducing even more the use of fish oil. And we also have to consider it formulating balanced and digestible feed, so the fish can absorb most part of it, and less organic matter can cause eutrophication of water bodies. Then we have that the optimal inclusion level has to be adopted for maximum cost-benefit result. So we have shown that the optimal level of inclusion is between 1 and 5%, depending on the species and in the life stage. So it's very important the tracking of the nutritionist, and we also can help a lot with these indications. At last, we have shown that we have already proven bioactivities such as anti-adipogenic in the lipid plasma profile of tilapias. We have shown the immunomodulatory bioactivity in promoting gut health, increasing the number of villi, and also antimicrobial, reducing the cumulative mortality in a challenge with the bacteria. So those products can be solutions to achieve functionalities and bioactivities in the formulations. So thank you all very much for the attention. If you want more information, we will have some minutes here. And we are also at the booth 1930 at the church. So thank you very much.
Thank you.